Breaking news tonight, just hours ago, the British medical journal BMJ did something extremely rare for a scientific journal. It accused a researcher, Andrew Wakefield, of outright fraud.
In 1998, Dr. Andrew Wakefield published a report suggesting that there was a link between the MMR vaccine and autism.
This episode of The Harmonious Gentlemen is brought to you by our friends at Blind Man Brewing, the most awarded brewery in Canada. They brew innovative, high-quality, and flavorful beer while working for sustainability through their green initiatives. Blind Man Brewing hosts all kinds of harmonious fun at their beautiful tap room in Lacombe, Alberta. Live music, cornhole leagues, wonderful tacos, or a refreshing pint with friends. There's always something fresh and tasty at Blind Man Brewing.
Well, if podcast episodes were the number of years ago that Stanley began his famous search for the missing missionary Daniel Livingstone, you'd know this has to be episode 155 of The Harmonious Gentlemen. I'm Chris.
Before I tell you my name, I'm a little concerned with the longevity or the shelf life of this episode because that will no longer be relevant next year.
Correct.
Just to be clear. So
You're
this
right.
really only works right now.
It's a very timely episode. And intro.
And I'm Graham.
And I'm Tyler. And nobody will notice next year.
That's true. That's true. Listen to it 10 episodes later. Next year, you'll be fine. No, that won't work. You guys know, like, the famous line, Dr. Livingstone, I presume?
Yeah.
Have you
I don't
heard
think
that?
I really knew where that came from, though, to be honest.
So he was a missionary in what country? Some African country, and went missing. And I think there was like a very wealthy man who paid for Stanley to go look for him. And he eventually found him. My recollection, not that I was there, but from the urban legend of it maybe, is he found him at like the base of a waterfall. Oh, Dr. Livingstone, I presume. So he found him.
Okay.
Anyway, kind of a cool story.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I bet there's a good book there somewhere to read.
There is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
Okay. Recommend it later on. Yeah. So, Tyler, why don't you let the people know what's going on? Where are we at? What are we doing? What are you wearing? A lot of things going on here.
Well, let's start with what I'm wearing, first of all. I'm wearing a sweater that I found in a thrift store in Ireland.
Oh.
And it's my favorite sweater.
Yeah, it's nice.
He does look Irish.
It does
Also
look a little
wearing-
different than what you would get here, doesn't it, Graham?
Yeah.
Looks itchier, but warmer, too.
Yeah.
Probably good, like if you're out on a lock.
Yes.
Or
I'm
is that
also
Scotland?
wearing like our new hat.
Yeah.
Like the
I
Harmonious
noticed
Gentlemen corduroy.
Mm-hmm.
It's now our
Cap.
fourth different hat we've had, right? Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to keep changing
still
it
in the
up,
bag.
trying new things. Yeah, it fits really nice, comfy. It's kind of Oilers color theme, but not so much that like if you don't like the Oilers, you couldn't
Not so
wear
much that I'm not going to wear it.
it. Right. Yeah. So that's kind of exciting.
If you know any of us, ask us. I'd love to give some away.
Yeah.
And if you don't know us, email. We'll see what happens.
It's a good chance you'll get one.
We don't
Yeah.
buy them just for us. So
No.
Yeah, we want to give them away.
We do.
Right? And so if you don't know us, your only chance of getting one is by emailing us.
And I think Chris is
contacting
already
us.
committed to just, he will mail you one.
Mm-hmm.
He'll do it free of charge. We'll pay the postage.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
As long as you go to the post office.
We didn't discuss this earlier, but this is happening.
Graham doesn't know two things: how much money we have left in our account, or how much it costs to mail a hat.
I just love all our big podcast decisions happen live as we record.
Right.
That's how we do things. Yeah. And also, too,
That is good.
Chris, why don't you hold up for the camera?
Okay.
We have enamel pins as well, which is a new...
Can you zoom in on that?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Definitely not zooming in, but...
We will.
I love those.
They're great.
I'm gonna wear
Tyler, great job on these.
Yeah. Well, he didn't mint them
The
himself.
government of Canada it will be interested to know that Tyler owns a minting process in his basement. They look great. So for the listener, they're an orange square enamel pin with our logo on them.
Yeah, it looks great.
And
The
we
original
have...
logo.
You guys are big pin fans.
I love the pin.
I'm a
you were
pin
like
huge.
I did this for you.
Pinhead.
But where do you put pins?
So I have a nice mountain equipment backpack for day trips, and that's
Okay.
where all my pins are.
Okay.
Mine go in a little container shelf thing. They'll never look at them again.
Oh.
But I love them.
My previous pins include the leaf of Lothlorien, which I bring up because...
Nice.
Yeah. which Spencer got me from New Zealand, and I have just all
That's
kinds
probably
of
a
things.
pretty sweet.
It's
pin,
a great pin.
Just the look of it.
Yeah.
My son has a pin. It's just a piece of fabric on a rod, where he has like a pin collection.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
but
Did you get one yet?
Yeah, he was the first one.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He was so pumped when I showed him that we had pins.
So quick shout out to Riley and Cilantro and Chai for hosting us tonight. We get the back room to ourselves once again, and so far so good. And so thanks for their continued support.
Yeah.
I think what's nice in this episode, Graham, will you be able to hear the restaurant
you definitely
chatter in the background?
You can hear it. It's
I love
lively.
it.
It's really busy in here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it smells really good.
It does. It's busier than the place across the road, so that's good too. So this is my episode that I've planned, you guys, and I just feel like this has become a thing that when I have episodes, I just bring just a massive stack of paper.
Are those the redacted Epstein files? Oh no, it says retracted on it though.
I am holding retracted scientific studies that I'm going to hand out to you guys in a minute, but they're not Epstein related as far as I know.
All right.
But before we get to that, it's the new year, 2026.
Yeah.
Recommendations for the listeners. Chris, I'm gonna start with you.
Okay. So maybe you've heard of the singer John Bryant. I've just recently heard of him, but he has a song that includes a story about the finding of the Stanley Livingston connection. So if you want to listen to his music, which is all wonderful, there's a really cool connection to that story.
What's the song called?
Get back to me on that.
We'll edit it in. If we don't, tough luck. Okay. John Bryant.
That's a good recommendation.
That's a good one.
John Bryant's, good music.
Yeah. Ty, do you have one?
Yeah, I had a student come to do some school with me, and she brought a book from her community school that I had never read before. It's called Flowers for Algernon, and her teacher wanted her to do a study of this novel. So I quickly flipped through it and noticed a few things that were kind of flags for me. And just considering where I work, I was like, I don't think you should read this book. So I recommended her read a different book. But then I took Flowers for Algernon with me over Christmas, and I read it. And that's my recommendation. Have you guys heard of that book, Flowers for Algernon?
I read it a long time ago.
Oh, really? Like, I had never read it.
Loved it.
Apparently, it's been studied in lots of classrooms.
Yeah.
But it's my recommendation. It's basically a story that dives into the idea of ignorance is bliss, but in a kind of sci-fi future dystopian way. And I read it really quickly. Like, it's easy read. I'm still glad I didn't have my student read it. But I'm glad I did. So
the TV show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia did an episode called Flowers for Charlie, and it was a
really?
takeoff on that,
is
on
that
that
right?
book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. That's a good one, Tyler. I think years ago I was just looking at like lists of awesome books everyone should read, and it just kept popping up in a lot of the lists, and that's just why I read it. But okay, I don't have a specific recommendation, but I just think I had this project that I was putting off for a long time in my house that I was debating getting someone to do it for me or doing it myself, and I went back and forth the last couple of years. And I finally just said, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself, take my time, learn on YouTube. It was a drop ceiling in our basement. It wasn't a huge project, but something that I took some time. My recommendation is just to try it yourself, because so many things you can learn about online quite easily, actually.
Yeah.
And as long as you take your time, you can save a lot of money and learn a new skill. And you guys have done that. You've done home projects. It feels good to look at the work you've done, and I am happy with it. So if you're debating, just try it out. The worst that can happen is that you waste all that time and money, and
you
then
hurt
somebody
yourself.
else has to fix it.
or you hurt yourself.
Yeah.
I bought a little laser level for it, and it's like my favorite new gadget now. It's really fun.
This is the part about doing it yourself is you end up getting tools.
Yeah.
That's what I love. Well, I guess I probably need a
totally
really good drill for this.
Yeah, you factored into the cost of your project, and you're still saving money anyway.
Sure.
So
Totally.
it makes sense to have it, right?
And then you have tools that you find a year later, and you have no idea what it's for.
Or you do a project in 5 years, and then you forget you had this tool that would have helped you.
Buy another one.
Now I have 3 drills.
All right, guys. So the episode tonight here at Cilantro is a topic that I've had in my head for a very long time. And actually, it's funny because cilantro often has these people who protest with signs on the corner.
Like cilantro doesn't have them protest.
Sorry, no, but they're there. And I think they began during COVID restriction time, and they've sort of carried over. And we've talked about it in the podcast. They have all kinds of signs. Like you saw some today.
Yeah,
like,
I saw some today.
Digital ID, the
yeah.
coming apocalypse, support Israel.
3-minute cities, whatever, or 50-minute cities. One of them has to do with medicine, vaccinations. And so I've been really... I mean, just science, skepticism in general has always fascinated me as someone from a science background. Moon landing, questioning, like just conspiracy theories we talked about are a lot of fun. But the vaccine hesitancy is interesting because it's like, it feels like it's always been there. But then I feel like COVID and the aftermath feels like it's more so. Especially when you consider the RFK in the States runs their sort of health, whatever, the health minister, I don't know his actual title. But very skeptical on vaccinations, and so they just this week they basically took like I think a half a dozen vaccines off their recommendation list for children that they've had on there for decades, and so just removing recommendations, not removing the ability to get them, but definitely not being a proponent of vaccinations,
right? Yeah,
and slowly pulling back on those, and so it's clearly something that's occurring, maybe more in the mainstream than it used to. But the thing is, you guys, like I didn't really want to dive into COVID. Really, and I don't want to dive into even like Trump administration. Really, like it's just so much going on, and if you actually Google vaccine hesitations or skepticism, there's just an endless list of things that you could go in any number of directions.
Yeah,
and I'm just overwhelmed by that. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, it's too much. But I still thought it was an important topic to talk about somehow. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to ignore everything from the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And we're going to go back and just learn about one person in 1998.
Okay.
And I feel like in learning about this person, I'm not trying to change people's minds or get on a soapbox, but I do think that when we look at the world of medicine, science, information, media, how things spread, I think it is a really, really important case study in this world. Okay. Especially when it comes to vaccine hesitancy, because you could argue that the person we're going to talk about is kind of the father of modern vaccine hesitancy. Like he basically he did make it mainstream, because before that it was very, very small pockets of people, and our vaccine rates were very high for a lot of years.
Yeah.
But this guy released the study, and I'm going to hand you guys the study right now that he released in 1998, and it kind of changed things for, I would argue, to even right to today, like continuing on today. So I think it's kind of a safer way to maybe not tackle too much all at once.
Yeah.
And maybe not go in so hard on like modern things, but I do think we're going to learn something about these movements, about some science, how to read scientific literature, and we're going to have a good time along the way.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
This segment is brought to you by the King's University in Edmonton, Alberta. Check out King's brand new Bachelor of Kinesiology degree. This integrative, highly practical health sciences program is about preparing you for careers in human performance, sports, and biomechanics. If you have a passion for movement and exercise, visit kingsu.ca/kinesiology.
Medical journals aren't in the habit of saying they're wrong, but today The Lancet, a respected British publication, did just that. It retracted a 12-year-old study linking the vaccine for mumps, measles, and rubella to autism.
It's almost unprecedented that a major journal would take back a publication.
This 1998 study, published in such a prestigious journal, has been used for more than a decade in the highly charged debate over what causes autism.
This publication, which was wrong, was scientifically implausible, which should never have been published to start with.
And we're back. Cilantro, the food was so good, you guys.
It really was.
Really good. Should have had the food after because I'm a little sleepy now. But, well, let's get into it, you guys. I think I sort of laid it out already earlier why I wanted to do this. And I think what's most interesting to me about this is not necessarily the vaccination talk or the science talk. It's just the nature of how information can affect people really quickly in a way that's hard to counteract, whether or not it's true or not. Like, I think it's really interesting to look at a case study like this where things get out of control really quickly. And so this is based on a paper. I'm going to hand you guys you don't have to actually read this, but just for dramatic effect, I've printed out a paper from 1998. And Chris, do you want to read the title of this paper?
Yeah, it's called Iliolymphoid Nodular Hyperplasia, Nonspecific Colitis, and Pervasive Developmental Disorder in Children.
Rolls off the tongue. What else do you notice about the paper, Tyler, when you look at it?
There's a big retracted in front, like across it.
Mm.
Is that saying the whole study has been retracted from
it has.
What? From what?
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
I noticed something, but maybe you don't want me to say it yet.
Go for it.
This is a study on 12 children?
Yes. What is that? Just
okay.
Immediate thoughts on that, Chris?
Longitudinal and broad scope reaching?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically, there's no secret here. Like, this is the first and only study that purports to, or that claims to prove a link between the MMR vaccine and children with autism. Okay, so the MMR vaccine being measles, mumps, and rubella, all in one. And this study is not, noticing the title doesn't really suggest that. When you read that title, it doesn't really seem to be telling you that. It was almost a byproduct of the study itself. So this is from the British medical journal called The Lancet, and this was published in 1998. And the main author, as you can see at the top, is Andrew Wakefield. There are 10 or more other...
it's more authors than subjects.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Andrew Wakefield, beginning to end, on this whole podcast. And he is the main author of this study, and he is worthy of our discussion. So, Chris, I'm really glad you noticed, number one, there are only 12 children this study is based on. And if you turn a page or two, you will see a table. We can do this later as well. A table on this page here that shows background on each person, on each child, symptoms of autism, when the symptoms were noticed, things like that. It's a whole bunch of information on the 12 subjects in this study. So I'll back up for a moment here, guys. The purpose of the study, as the title suggested, if you could parse through what it means, is to find a connection between bowel disorders and developmental issues in children, in particular autism. So they were trying to find a link between that. Okay, so bowel disorders and developmental issues, which include autism. So we can call this non-specific colitis, which is inflammation of the colon. So non-specific meaning we're not too sure what's causing it or the area, but it's an inflammation. Okay. So in the study, so Wakefield is a kind of a gut. I forget his actual what he actually did. I think it was something to do with gut health and surgery of that area. And so he noticed a correlation between bowel issues and autism, and so this study was a result of that. Trying to find a link between why are children with bowel disorders and issues, why do they seem to have autism. And so, of course, this whole thing, though, I talked about vaccine hesitancy. And so the study, if again, we're not going to read the whole thing. I can show you bits and pieces later. I did read the whole thing a couple of times. It's not very long. And I just wanted to see, right? Like, there's lots of documentaries and there's books and there's articles and there's so much stuff you can read. But I thought, well, I'll start by reading the whole thing. And even just by reading it, I know I went to school for science. I know I have some background. I don't think it takes anybody being an expert to see the problems with this study. Okay, just off the bat. Yes, it does take time, right? And you read that title, it's like, who wants to read that? but I don't think it takes you very long. In fact, the general gist of it is basically some of the parents of the kids in this study think that they remember autism symptoms after getting the MMR vaccine. That's basically what this boils down to. Are the parents generally thinking they remember, right, those symptoms happening after their vaccine. And by the way, in terms of scientific conclusions, that's it. That is it. It's parents thinking this happened then. That's everything. Yeah. Thoughts, Tyler?
Looking at the table.
Yeah.
Out of the 12 kids, it looks like there was a lot of autism diagnoses.
Yes.
So how did they pick the 12 kids?
Okay, so there are layers to this that we're going to peel back as we go. And I will definitely talk about where these kids came from, where their parents came from.
Okay.
I will also talk about what you guys are looking at, how they got their autism diagnosis, Also of note, you should take a look here into interval from exposure to their first behavioral symptoms. So basically, how long after the MMR do people notice anything? And we'll just pause for a second. Yeah, we're all good. Yeah. Okay, with me so far?
Can
Okay.
I ask,
Yes.
like, Wakefield is a gut health
Yes.
doctor.
Yes.
Was he actually noticing that there was something about abnormal gut health and neurodevelopmental problems, or not problems, but that he was identifying, that he was curious about?
I like to start this off with assume he's arguing in good faith. We're gonna put that into question. So right now, Chris, I don't think so. After having gone through all this, I do not think so. But at first, I actually did. At first, I did think he noticed and he wanted to do a study.
Like he's with a lot of kids.
That's how
He's seeing
science
a lot of
works.
kids with gut
Yes.
health problems. So he's asking an honest question.
And that's completely relevant and understandable.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have no problem with that. And he was a legit doctor working at a legit facility with people who needed help. And so that is all true. Maybe you can answer that question later on with what you think.
I'll try.
All right. One sec, guys. So the study itself, there's a few pages to it. A lot of it is just, it's a bit of a weird mix of bowel disorder descriptions. There's some pictures that are a little bit gnarly. They're in black and white here, so not as much of pictures of inside colons and like just things like that. Like there's some medical pictures. It looks, I mean, it's short for a medical study, but it looks legitimate. There's sightings and there's pictures, and so at first glance, it could be seen to be quite legitimate. Guys, you'll notice that parents basically noticed there's a range of time between what they noticed their children getting these symptoms from 24 hours all the way to 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
It's oddly specific, the timeline for some of these parents, like when they notice, because early autism signs are quite mild usually, and so it is interesting that they claim to notice these things in a very specific time set. Again, just a thing I noticed. Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to be clear about now off the top, you guys, when it comes to autism, maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't, but when do you think most autism symptoms are noticeable for children? Do you kind of know? You're educators, Chris. You're top of the food chain there. Do you know roughly when you might notice symptoms?
I would say probably at age 2, you would be noticing a lot of the language developmental things that aren't happening, or you're comparing to other kids, so you're around more people and saying, oh, maybe they're not meeting milestones the same way my kids, earlier kids did, or the kids that they're playing with did. That'd be my guess.
Try topping that answer. That was really good.
I'm not going to. But I think they wouldn't be pursuing a diagnosis that young.
No.
They
would,
but
or
you
wouldn't be?
I don't think
No,
they would.
I don't think so either.
But you might start noticing things, I would say around that age too. Maybe even a little younger, but a lot of it's communication and response.
And this
to,
is first noticeable, right? So this would be like very subtle things.
Well, and autism is a social communication disorder,
Yes,
so
that's right.
Yeah.
So from what I could find, it's around 12 to 18 months, typically the very first symptoms. So you guys are right in that sweet spot. And just for the record, the MMR vaccine is usually administered between the 12 and 15 month stage. So they overlap.
Right.
Okay.
So that's important.
Yeah.
I'll just put that out there, but we'll keep going. Okay. So Chris, I'm glad you noticed the sample size problem right away. And so when we teach science in high school or university, sample size is huge. There's actually nothing necessarily wrong with a small sample size. A pilot study, you can probably guess what that means. It's delving into, is this something worth pursuing?
Yeah.
So attacking something scientific for having a small sample study isn't necessarily always correct, but it is worth noting. In this case, especially because of what happens afterwards. Okay, so 12 is a really, really small sample size. Tyler, do you have any guesses as to what maybe an appropriate sample size might be for a study of this nature? Again, I don't have an actual answer. I'm just curious what you would, you know what I mean? 12 seems small.
I think hundreds, like at least.
Yeah.
I'm maybe thinking ahead to what this study was used to kind of provoke in the public discourse, and then I would hope that it would have a much larger sample size, but Yeah, I don't know. Like hundreds seems more
hundreds
legit.
of thousands. Yeah. I mean, typically what happens with pilot studies is that they find something, they find a kernel or something worth, and then they open it up to more studies, and then they find what they want to find. So interestingly enough, Andrew Wakefield will have a chance to expand the scope of his study.
Okay.
Will he take it? We'll find out. Quote, this is from the study. We did not prove an association between measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines and the syndrome described. Virological studies are underway that may help to resolve this issue. So the study actually says we didn't prove anything.
Okay.
It's in the last page. You can read it. It's there.
Yeah. Which
is very interesting as you'll find what was done with the study. So these children had similar, not all the same, bowel issues. And Wakefield used this to try to find a link between vaccines and autism. And he actually called it something, and that will come up later on. So I'm going to skip this quote, guys, because I just sort of said that. So from the study, Wakefield says, we have identified a chronic enterocolitis in children that may be related to neuropsychiatric dysfunction. In most cases, onset of symptoms was after measles, mumps, and rubella immunization. Further investigations are needed to examine the syndrome and its possible relation to the vaccine. So, sounds reasonable, right? Like, we've noticed this correlation, but we need to do more studies.
In 1998, is it common for kids to have other vaccinations besides MMR by this age?
Yes.
But he didn't look at those links?
No. I wonder why.
Yeah, I have a guess, but...
Yeah.
This might be going back a step, but, we talked about the interval of exposure to the MMR immunization and then when parents were recognizing symptoms.
Yeah.
When were they told about this to start looking for the symptoms?
We're going to find out that later.
Okay.
This is tough because there's so many things that are unraveled as you go, and you guys are asking amazing questions, and I hope that by the end they're answered.
Okay.
It's not going to go in a good place. Let's be real here. But the important thing I want to go over, I don't want to just make fun, but this study had a massive impact on people around the world. One more point, I want to put a name out there for you guys and the listeners for later. If you look in the references section, number 16, there's a doctor there. Chris, what's his name?
Fudenberg.
There aren't many places in the study where he cites specific examples that support what he's saying. That's basically the only one I could find was Fudenberg. And so if you look into Fudenberg, he's an interesting dude. Here's a quote from Fudenberg. A quote from this study that's cited here. So a Fudenberg study is cited here. Here's a quote from that study. He says, dialysable lymphocyte extract in infantile onset autism, a pilot study. That's his study. It was a very, very small fringe journal. By the way, the journal went under right after it came out. But I looked it up. I didn't print it for you guys. It's a really crazy study if you read it. The guy sounds nuts. That's not scientific, but there's some weird stuff. He thinks that he purported in this study here, he purported to curing autism by using his bone marrow, and he made children become normal. So that was in the study. That's shown right here. That's a red flag, in my opinion. Fudenberg will come up later, though. He's a fun guy.
Okay.
By the way, when this came out, Fudenberg no longer had a medical license. And the reason I point him out amidst all these other references is it's the only one that actually relates to the MMR causes autism thing. Nothing else here actually talks about that. Yeah. It's all about other conditions and stuff. Okay. So when the Lancet published this in 1998, they tagged it as an early report because I think they kind of realized that they should probably give some sort of notice to people that this is preliminary and this is small. So they slapped that thing you guys can see, early report, twice on the top page there. And in the same issue, and I should have printed it, they also published an article that showed concerns for this. So in the very same article they published, they're saying, here's this thing from Wakefield, here's another article being we have some concerns.
About concerns about
this.
Okay.
So you ask yourself why they published this. I don't really know, right? I mean, look, there are papers that are sometimes put out that are retracted. It happens, right? That does happen after they're scrutinized heavily, which this paper was. This is the quote, and I find this to be maybe one of the most profound quotes in this entire thing that I read here. So in the Lancet, they said this in the same issue. They said vaccine safety concerns, such as that reported by Wakefield and colleagues, may snowball into societal tragedies when the media and the public confuse association with causality and shun immunization.
Who said that?
The Lancet put that in their article next to this one.
And they're the journal, like the public.
And they're the scientific journal who published this in '98. So I kind of got goosebumps because they basically called it.
Yeah.
They called it in the very same issue that they
But they also published
it. But they also published it, right? So it's an interesting thing to think about. All right. Almost at the end of this. Are you guys okay so far? Is this all right? Okay. So this thing came out, and Wakefield held a big press conference. Not usual for people to do that when they release scientific articles, but he did a big press conference, and he was talking about basically none of this except for MMR vaccines cause autism. And he just basically said it from a press conference, put it out in the world.
And he's using those words?
Yes. Well, okay. Well,
I'm concerned that I'm finding a potential link between, but like MMR causes.
In the next segment, I actually will tell you exactly what he was saying.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot of cliffhangers here.
This segment is brought to you by Cilantro and Chive. Delicious, creative dishes, a huge variety of locally crafted drinks, and with locations in Lacombe and Red Deer, they're making two communities more awesome. Check out their mouth-watering Burger of the Month, a rotating menu item that satisfies your hunger and supports local initiatives and charities. Cilantro and Chive. Fresh, simple eats.
My opinion, again, is that the monovalent, the single vaccines, measles, mumps and rubella, are likely in this context to be safer than the polyvalent vaccine.
That's the MMR vaccine.
All right, guys. If you're still with us, thank you for staying with the podcast. Are you guys still here?
Mostly. We're alive. Yeah.
Okay. So, Chris, you asked what specifically he was saying at this press conference and in many subsequent interviews and stuff. So he said specifically that we should... So he wasn't actually an anti-vax messenger. Okay, so the anti-vax sort of modern movement is no vaccinations are necessary, typically speaking, or safe. He wasn't saying that actually, although I think maybe he does nowadays. But back then, he said that we should not give all three as one. It's too much for the kids to handle.
Yeah.
Give them separate ones.
Okay.
So you do measles, So it's like the messaging wasn't horrendous. Like he's still saying get vaccinated. It's more costly for parents to do it one by one for sure. Harder to book, that kind of thing. The systems aren't in place for that. But that was his initial message, which that is not in here at all, anywhere. Like nothing in this suggests anything like that at all. Just, you can read it, but it's not in there. So he's definitely made a bit of a leap. Okay, this thing comes out, and you guys are pretty young. Maybe you were less young, but we were younger then. This was a big story, especially in the UK, which is where this happened, by the way. It's a UK-based. And if you guys go to YouTube, there are countless BBC documentaries and articles and opinion pieces that just came flooding out. And this guy was interviewed all over the place. Like he was a bit of a mini celebrity for a while.
This is a big storyline.
It's a huge story, right? And sometimes to me, it's a little bit sad because you see, I've watched some of these things, and it's like, I don't think any of these journalists read anything in this study. Like, I don't think they looked at it one iota. They heard the headline, they heard his claims, which are very big and scary, and if they're true, very necessary to report on.
Yeah.
So in some ways, you understand it, but basically, this link between this MMR and vaccines was kind of set in stone right from the get-go. And I don't know if Wakefield could have seen this coming. Like, we're going to learn about him more, but it's like, I think it was quite a happy accident for this guy. But it blew up. And so I have some audio clips here I'll play in the podcast at this point if I can get them all together. Because some of the headlines are pretty out there. Okay.
But like you mentioned that this isn't like the most, it's not that long. It's pretty easy to read.
Yeah.
So people who are reporting on this as science journalists aren't asking him tough questions at the time?
They're failing. In my opinion, they failed the public.
Okay.
Which the media can do that. Especially when, we know how the media works. You want to get those clicks, get that engagement. Yeah. This would get you crazy engagement, right?
Right.
And it did.
But clicks, like we're talking early internet days here.
Yeah, 1998. Yeah. So internet still, but early for sure. And I don't...
It wouldn't be a person's number one source for news, for sure. in 98.
But
like
it
you're
wasn't-
reading an
The
article.
premise is still the goal of you want to buy newspapers or
Yeah.
Well, and all the TV reporting was all done.
Yeah.
There's
But I
many-
think there's like this nostalgic view I have of reporters
Yeah.
who did way more real work back in the day, like including 27 years ago or 20. Like,
I know.
So they didn't.
Not all the time. Not all the time.
Yeah.
No.
But they also, is it their job to read the scientific journal?
If they're reporting on it, I think so.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's what you need to have somebody on your staff who can. This isn't rocket science to even just to take what he's saying and then look at this. It doesn't even say that here.
Right.
It doesn't even show that here. Right. He's in some ways literally making it up, like literally. He's just saying, split up the vaccine.
Yeah.
And you guys can read it. It doesn't even talk about that. By the way, I hope I didn't miss it. There is a condition, maybe this comes up later, that he kind of invented that these kids had. And I'll probably get into it later, but the condition basically, the gist of it is you get the vaccine, it goes into your gut, it doesn't totally die, and then it messes with your gut health, and it creates some byproduct, and that seeps into your brain and gives you autism. Like, it's quite this step-by-step thing that he postulated. And it'll probably come up later, but he called it something. So it was a completely new condition, which, by the way, wasn't recognized then, is not recognized now. It's not actually a thing. But he had this theory as to how it could give you autism, because autism is genetic. And so at first glance, this doesn't really make sense. But he had this sort of like, this happens, and this happens, and this happens kind of thing. And if you go easier on the vaccines, it won't accumulate in your gut like that, and it won't do the things it's going to do.
Okay.
So he would say these things. And I did my best, you guys, to try to read everything I could just to hear his side of the story, and then look at this and ask myself, did he do any other studies? He did not.
So at this point, if you're kind of following it sequentially, like from the beginning to like following it, this happens, then this happens. At this point, do you still think he's acting in good faith? Like, is he genuinely concerned for people and saying we need to be careful with vaccinations? Because I have a feeling at some point you switch. Like you.
Yes. I knew of Andrew Wakefield for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I knew about the autism MMR link. I knew that it was debunked years ago, because it was debunked years ago. I didn't know all this stuff, though. When I set out to do this, I just wanted to read about the study, why it was retracted, and how it's affected the world going forward. I did not think that what I'm going to talk about happened.
But at this point, if he had done this study, and then he is taking, a lot of parents are noticing after the MMR.
Yes.
And now I'm going to go to the media and like kind of spread this message. We need to hold off on vaccines. At this point, do you have any problems with that?
My problems are less with him and more with the media at this point.
Okay.
Although I do wonder, why is he saying a bunch of stuff to the media that's not even in this? Like, that's weird.
It's because like he has a podium now or a soapbox.
But could he could he be genuinely I know it's not in here.
Sure.
But I believe that this is like I'm convicted.
Yeah, and he works with kids, and obviously you could take that point of view. Sure. Yeah. And maybe at this exact moment, I'm almost more annoyed at the media for reporting on this like it's
just someone's conviction, not necessarily based on good science.
You know, during COVID, I would hear like people saying the virus is shedding, or like you have to be careful being around people who are vaccinated because that could
I don't know if I've heard that.
shed virus. I just wonder if that's what he's talking about with the gut to the brain to the. Is
Good
that
question.
sort of that kind of?
I'm not sure. When I was first looking into all of this stuff, the COVID, the boosters, the modern day, the measles, there's so many terms that we could just go in one. So that's like one direction. Yeah, so I'm not sure, Chris, about that. That's a good thought, but I don't know. So anyway, if you look it up, you guys, it's crazy. There's stuff everywhere. I mean, don't forget, you've got millions of people being shown these news stories because of 8 out of 12 parents think this gave their kids autism, right? That's really what this is all based on. If you look at all 12 here, only 8 of them actually think that. And so if you just for a moment, like, does that make you lose some faith in our media? I mean, that's a huge, to be telling people, hey, your kid has autism probably because you gave them a vaccine. Like, first of all, putting that on parents, like, is awful, unless you know for sure. I don't know what you guys think about that, but like that's kind of a terrible thing to just put out there without checking your sources. And you can't really blame parents, right? Like if your kid has a condition or they're autistic or whatever, now you've given them a reason for that, where they never had a reason before, right? It's just kind of, I don't really blame them for believing it. Okay, is that setting the stage okay so far? I'm gonna keep going. Okay. So soon after, most World Health Organizations and doctors were pleading with the public to please don't read this paper. Like they could tell right away, this is not true. Please continue the MMR vaccine. It's safe. And even it's funny. You can even look some of the media like backlashed against them, because it's almost like they were calling out the media, and they were like, "Whoa!" They're almost mad at some of the doctors. So it was interesting. There's some people who took it kind of personally, that like there's calling out media for failing to do their job, and media's almost going back at them. It was interesting. Wakefield was front and center through all of this. The dude's on TV every day during this time. Like he's out there every day, countless interviews. And he repeated the line many times that millions of young people were at risk unless they gave the vaccines separately. He said it over and over and over again. Okay, that was his mantra. Do it separately, and then you won't get autism. Okay, I already mentioned that. Okay, so guys, I did mention this earlier. The invented disease that he came up with is called autistic enterocolitis. And I think I already kind of explained it. I'll say it again in case this is more clear. The almost dead measles virus only, gets stuck in the intestine, which causes it to inflame, and there's that inflamed bowel he's seeing. And that leads to foods not being properly digested. And then that makes a morphine-like substance, which then leaks out of the bowel and into the brain, and that causes autism. So that was the sort of like theory, which isn't really talked about in here.
Like it sounds...
Sure. Sounds like it could happen.
Yeah.
Well, and we even know there's this link between gut health and all these other health conditions.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the forefront of that. But I could see how people go, oh, wow, like that is really serious.
Yeah, and he's a legit doctor, too. He's not just some guy yelling, right? Like, he's a legit doctor with a legit study. So, yeah. Okay. Also, as I thought about this too, him saying that the measles part of the vaccine was the problem, but he's still advocating for the measles vaccine, it still doesn't totally make sense. Like he's still saying to do the measles vaccine. So even his own story doesn't completely make sense to me anyway.
Yeah.
The other part of it too that we don't need to go in too deeply is that a lot of the news reporting exploited autistic kids in a pretty gross way. Like you'll watch these documentaries made then, and it's got autistic kids screaming or hitting people in black and white and like slow motion, really kind of like giving people this vision or this version of autistic people, which is really insensitive and kind of terrible, actually. Like stigmatizing autistic people who are human beings.
Yeah.
Right? And there's all that. And that's a whole other side to this, too, that we don't need to delve into deeply, but you guys understand. That's gross,
a problem.
And it's a problem. And I felt sad watching a lot of these little documentaries that were put out. So what happened was immunization rates dropped. Inoculation rates dropped.
Wow.
Yeah, noticeably dropped right after the study came out. Not off a cliff, but pretty starkly, though. If you look at the graphs, it's not nothing. I think it's... Oh gosh, I shouldn't say this. It'll be on their 80s to like 60s. Like it's a pretty big jump. What happened? Again, don't quote me out. That's in there. So we can look it up. And then a lot of parents actually started paying for the individual vaccines instead. So listening to what he was saying, and they were still getting vaccines, but they were paying for the individual ones. When I say paying, it just costs them more to do all three than once.
What was the reason of initially to combine all three vaccines? Was it just for cost effectiveness, like efficiency?
Yeah. One needle instead of three. Convenience for kids. No one likes needles. Yeah.
So did any like health units or countries split them? Like did Kazakhstan start giving 3 different needles instead of one? Or?
Great question. I did not read of anything like that happening. Okay. Because I think the repercussions came out fairly quickly.
Oh, okay.
And so I want to pause because I think it was important now. We've talked about the study. I hope we've generally clear on what it was about, what he said. We need to figure out who Andrew Wakefield is now. Because you guys have asked a few times, like, do we trust him? Like, does he actually care? Well, let's talk about who this guy is. Will the real Andrew Wakefield stand up?
I confronted Wakefield with these charges.
These charges that are a big deal in the world of science. The most damning evidence of all that perhaps these numbers, the dates were all fabricated to sort of make a case. Did you have some sort of preconceived notion of a link between the vaccine, MMR, and autism before you conducted this study?
Absolutely not. People don't. The parents understand it. They get it because they've lived it. Okay? And the claims to whether the vaccine caused their children harm or not came from the parents, not me. I didn't have a preconceived notion about this at all.
And we're back. Tyler, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
But
I want to know who Andrew Wakefield is.
Okay. He's my best friend. Okay, so Andrew Wakefield. Can we just start off, guys? Can we agree?
Are we just starting off?
Well, that was the intro. Now we're getting into it.
Okay.
Can you guys agree? We're harmonious, right? If just one question, and I'll ask you first, Tyler. If it just so happened that Andrew Wakefield owned a patent for a measles-only vaccine, would that be seen as a problem from what you've heard so far?
Yeah, a big one. Yeah.
Chris, how about you?
Might be a slight conflict of interest.
I just want to put that out there to see what you think.
No.
But not all that surprising.
But here's the thing.
I knew there would be an angle, but I was hoping it wasn't going to be financial.
Can I give you a spoiler? There's another worse angle than that. That's not even the worst angle.
What?
That's just that's one of the angles. If you're an Andrew Wakefield fan, I hope you reconsider. No. So yes, he did file a patent on an alternative measles vaccine that was filed less than a year before the study came out.
Under a pseudonym?
Under his name.
Again, like the media should probably know.
I was just going to say. Strike two for the BBC.
Speaking of the media, there's a journalist called Brian Deere who's kind of the hero of this story. He's a journalist, and he comes up a lot starting now.
I guarantee if this is a movie, Mark Ruffalo plays him. He's just that kind of guy.
Well, I've watched some videos with him. He doesn't look like Mark Ruffalo.
He doesn't need to.
Mark Ruffalo's a chameleon.
Yeah.
So Deere basically investigated Wakefield from the get-go because it was fishy. And we talked about this. It was fishy that he was saying to do that. And he discovered a patent. And it is a vaccine for measles only. Here's the other part I love. There's only 2 names on the patent. Can you guess the other name besides Wakefield?
The
he's
weird
back.
guy, number 16.
Starts with an F?
I've only given you 2 names so far. So.
Fudenberg.
So Fudenberg is also on the patent. By the way, misspelled in the patent. I looked it up. It's kind of funny. So it is just those 2 guys. Are things coming together a little bit for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You loving this?
How do you patent a vaccine?
Good question. It's very preliminary, and you have to go through many, many studies and trials before it actually becomes a thing. And people who've looked at the patent now, in retrospect, think it never would have gotten through those stages anyway. So it's a really early patent. I don't know how you do it, exactly what it means. But
so he's just like setting the stage for his little nest egg.
Right, which, again, isn't even the worst part. There's a really good documentary. Deere made a few things. He confronted Wakefield a few times, and Wakefield kind of runs from him each time. It's interesting to watch. Wakefield had other side things too, smaller medical businesses that he had set up. And one of the businesses was shopping for investors because he had, not only did he have the vaccine patent, but he also was shopping for investors to invest in a company who would invest in his diagnostic kits that would diagnose students or kids with autistic enterocolitis, which was his now made-up condition. So he wants to also sell these testing
Which is going to help. Yeah, more people are going to find links. And
there's some documents that have been unearthed where he says he thought he could make up to $70 million from these testing kits. So he was thinking about the money pretty early on. He did have other businesses too, taking some government funding for certain testing. I'm not going to go into all of them. There's 2 or 3 of them. Anyway, he had some other irons in the fires, as they say.
Okay.
All right.
And like I said here, guys, in my script, there's more details. We don't have all night. You mentioned conflict of interest. The entire thing is a conflict of interest, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So he's creating the demand through a study for the products he wants to sell. And that could be the end of the podcast right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. The study wasn't good enough.
Right.
He was doing it for money. It's hard to argue that. He argues it, of course. At this point, I do want to point out to you guys that no lab or research group has ever recreated this data on any scale, ever.
Have they attempted to in the studies?
Yes. That includes studies of millions. There has been, to date, no proof that MMR has anything to do with autism. Zero. Nothing. Now, people still cite this study today, right? Even though...
Like in a positive way?
Yes,
like in
as defense of the argument?
Yeah. And I think there are still people even today who that autism MMR link is still in their brain.
But that's not because of the study, it's because of the media presentation and the...
Sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, not because of the evidence that the study put forward.
Yeah. And just so you know, like I did have a part of the script, you guys, where I did, I'll put it in our notes, but like links to the studies that try to replicate this. I don't think I have to go over that. Like, this is about him, but you can do it. Like, it's online, and no one's been able to. They've tried to recreate this, and they just haven't. Like, there's at this point, statistically speaking, there is no relationship between those two things. None.
How long after this was published, like this study, did it get this big retracted thing put on it?
I love when like you guys have questions that I'm getting to. I'll get there. It took longer than you think, though. Longer than you think. Like it took longer than I would have thought. Okay, I'm going to move through this, get you guys. So the investors, by the way, it became kind of obvious soon after this came out that there were some issues. There's, every medical organization's like, hey, this guy is kind of weird. Like, maybe double check this. So he wasn't able to get a lot of investors. It wasn't going that well. Also, in 1999, the hospital where he worked, the head of medicine there kind of let Wakefield do his thing. I think he respected him. I think he liked him. But in 99, they got a new head of medicine named Mark Pepys. And he basically immediately realized, like, I don't know if I dig this guy's style. I don't know if I like what he's doing in the media. I don't know if I like his study. But the cool thing is he didn't fire him. He didn't let him go. He actually offered to fund and let him do a bigger study. Huh. He actually went to him like a good scientist, a medical scientist, and said, look, why don't you do a bigger study? And they offered people, they offered resources to do that. And in a letter to Wakefield, the new president or the new head of medicine said, good scientific practice now demands that you and others seek to confirm or refute robustly, reliably, and above all, reproducibility, the possible causal relationships between MMR vaccines and autism / autistic enterocolitis, which he put in quotations, by the way, / inflammatory bowel disease that you have postulated. So that kind of says it all. It's like, you got to prove this, man. You can't keep going out there and saying this stuff. You would think that he would have jumped all over this if he was genuinely worried. He did not. He sort of started, kind of stopped, sort of started, and then just gave up pretty quickly. So that is, I think, also equally as important that he had the chance to do a follow-up study and did not do it. Later, Mark Pepys called him a wanker and a fraud.
A wanker.
Yeah.
Strong words.
Eventually, he was forced out of the job eventually at that hospital.
The most hurtful of the British insults.
Hey, after Wakefield was let go, what do you think he said to the media?
Thanks for promoting my ideas.
Yeah. But like publicly, did he give a reason for being let go, Ty?
Oh.
Well, I don't know exactly what he would have said, but I was going to guess that he presented himself as a victim of some kind of injustice.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
He said that his research results are unpopular, is what he said. So they just don't like my results.
Right. Okay.
At this point, he loses this job. His companies now, they're not working out. There's no investors. His career is now kind of done too. It's not going super well. Deere, the journalist, he continued to investigate for years after this. And again, I'm not going to go into all of it, but found lots of stuff, lots of good stuff. One of the things that Deere uncovered was that Wakefield did have an expert in this study look into the tissues of the children's guts to find the measles virus, because the whole theory kind of depends on that measles virus being in the gut.
Right.
So the person who was an expert, a legit expert in this kind of, in tissue and things like that, basically found that there was no measles in the guts of autistic children at all. So Wakefield fired him from the study, brought on another person to investigate. They said there's no measles in the gut, and then Wakefield just said there was anyway. So he let the people go who actually knew what they were doing. So the more that Deere found out about the study, the more it became completely fraudulent, right? Like it became, like not even though this was shaky to begin with, even the information in there begins to completely fall apart.
When I imagine this as a movie,
it would be a good movie.
Like Deere or Ruffalo, Mark Ruffalo.
You got it.
Like works for some like small newspaper who's not putting his stories out there.
Yeah, it's his brother-in-law as the editor.
Right.
He's not publishing any of his stories.
So he's working his tail off to get these stories, but they're just not getting out there. That's the way I'm imagining it. But if this Deer guy is onto him, like, is his story not getting out there?
As far as I could tell, a little bit.
Okay.
Yes.
But not enough to take him down.
I tried to find a positive in this episode, and so at the end I will have a little bit of a positive which relates to that. It relates to the results of Deer's investigating. So you're right, Tyler, that yes, it did get out there, but primarily in the UK, not so much in other places.
Right.
Because after Wakefield was disgraced in the UK, where do you think he set up shop?
Florida.
Close. One more.
Alabama.
Keep going.
Louisiana. Texas.
There you go. Yeah. So came stateside. That's been his thing for a while. Oh, by the way, the scientist who did find no link is not on the study. His name is Chadwick. He asked to not be on the paper. So that also happened too. He didn't want to be involved. Okay. Anyway, we're finishing up. I'm not going into the history of Wakefield's whole past, although there was one more thing I want to add to this. But I will say that Wakefield did file a defamation lawsuit against a few news stations and Deer himself, which would prove to be a massive, massive mistake. Because when you file a defamation lawsuit,
everything
they have
comes
some
out.
discovery, and we'll get there in a second. Just so you guys know, there's 13 authors on this thing. 10 of them came out and basically retracted everything from the
Like
study.
said, don't include me.
Yeah. And the way
Because authors, authors.
Authors, yeah. There's I think 13 there. Yeah. 10, at least 10 have said if they don't back it anymore. Okay, so that's pretty bad. I mean, the story I've just painted, I hope that people can agree that that's pretty bad. But like I said, it actually gets worse. Because Deer...
I have no guess as to what that's going to be.
Do you have a guess,
but
Tyler?
I think Tyler does.
No, I don't.
Oh.
No.
Well, I'm going to make you wait in suspense and see one of my jingles. So at this point, I'm assuming that we're not the hugest fans.
We're still sort of rooting for him.
Well, Chris, you did mention earlier.
Just kidding.
Do we have room in our hearts to hope that he still thought what he was doing was right? He still thought there was this connection. He cared deeply about it. I think when this next thing was revealed, maybe that hope is gone.
The patent made me realize.
The patent was the turning point.
That was for you, yeah.
When your motive is money, you don't.
Okay.
I'm no longer rooting for you.
So in 1996, a lawyer named Richard Barr approached Wakefield and asked him to do this study. Okay, so this study, you asked why did he do the study? That's why. Because he was offered to be paid. I think he made over $400,000 pounds for it. It was over $1 million in today's money. 8 times his yearly salary. So he was offered a lot of money by a lawyer to do this. So Richard Barr, not a great character in the story, the lawyer, he determined that he could make a lot of money, maybe millions, if he brought a class action lawsuit against MMR manufacturers from the parents of autistic children. Because there were a few small pockets of people who sort of thought there was this link. And so I think he maybe got this idea. He thought if he could class action lawsuit.
You could be the guy who makes the connection.
Exactly. Get them all together, go after them for this. But he just needed a study to show a connection. He needed something scientific that he could take to court with him. Because you can't just say it without that.
Right.
So he found someone who's deals with gut health, whatever it is, and he offers him a lot of money.
So before then, what's his name again?
Andrew Wakefield.
Wakefield has no suspicions that there is a connection?
I don't know. I didn't find any. Maybe he'd probably say he did if you were to ask him.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
But I don't think there's any. He didn't do any studies or anything.
He's got no.
He already had it, but he also had a patent on a.
A year later.
That was the year later.
Oh, the year later. Okay.
So I feel like maybe, again, speculating, but the scheming may have started pretty quick.
Seems like it.
Right.
Okay.
So Barr wrote a letter to Wakefield, and this came out in some of his. I want to say trials, but the medical board had to go over his history. The letter said, quote, I have mentioned to you before that the prime objective is to produce unassailable evidence in court so as to convince a court that these vaccines are dangerous. Can't be more clear than that. Here's what you're going to go do, or here's what I want. There was a website called JABS, G-A-B-S, which stood for Justice, Awareness, and Basic Support, which is really trying to make that JABS acronym work out there. And it was for vaccine-damaged children that parents were on. Again, there were these pockets, right, of people. And here's where it just gets completely bonkers, right? And just keep in mind that this study was spread like wildfire. And just every time we learn something else about it, it's just so disappointing. But Barr went to this website, and that's where he found the parents. So we talked about where these kids come from. It came from a website with parents who thought these things already.
Who already thought that.
They already thought that. And so that's where he grabbed these people from. He actually flew one out from the States. They were so desperate to get as many as they could that they actually flew somebody out from, I think, California somewhere. Not even from the UK. Some of the parents who offered their children up in the study were already involved. I wrote this in caps because it did come out as well that some of the parents were actually already talking to this lawyer who would join the class action lawsuit. So they're helping build a case. They're helping to build a case through their children. So it is what it feels like now. I mean, it's actually kind of a fraud loop in a way. It's actually kind of brilliant that they're just going to use their own children to prove what they want to prove.
As I'm thinking about this, for sure it proves the study is completely bonkers, nuts, and dismissive.
But you can understand
it might not dismiss the class action lawsuit.
Sure.
But
because they want to prove,
the proof they're using is fraudulent, for sure.
It's another layer to the study being...
exactly.
I think I agree with you, yeah. By the way, most of the other doctors in this study that you guys can see all their names there did not know that he was being paid to do this study by another lawyer. Because Wakefield actually worked with these doctors individually one-on-one at a time. He never had them all together, so he very systematically and deliberately kept that from all the doctors he worked with. And so they didn't really even know what specifically he was trying to do. And if you read the study, there's parts that are just studying children with these issues, right? Like legit doctors just looking at symptoms and looking at timelines, things like that. A lot of these doctors were pretty pissed off afterwards too. Like they weren't happy with how they were used. So after all this is happening, the General Medical Council in the UK did a study on Wakefield to see if he should keep his medical license. That's typically what happens after these things. It was a 217-day hearing, which was the longest General Medical Council in history.
Wow.
No one's ever taken that long. And they picked through everything. And a lot of Deer's journalism came up. Deer actually spoke at this panel a few times. He presented what he found. So a lot of what he has in his book comes from these hearings, and they're extensive, 217 days. And I'd mentioned earlier when he sued Deer, we talked about this, but like that basically allowed him to look deeper into all the backgrounds. And so apparently Wakefield's lawyers were like racing to try to get the lawsuit dropped when they realized this was going to happen. And they did drop it eventually. Like they were like, never mind. Like they didn't want to do it anymore.
Oh man.
Yeah. And then Wakefield had to pay for all of Deer's costs before that anyway because of their laws. So that's fun. So Deer continued his investigation throughout the entire license board discussions. He wrote some really good articles. There's a series of articles. I wish I'd written down the journal they were in. They're really good. I'll put them in the Substack. They're really great. They're very detailed, way more than I can be right now. One thing that he did was talk to the parents. So Deer went further back and he asked parents questions like, hey, did you know what this was or why were you here? And a lot of the parents saw the data here and said, I didn't say that. Like they actually refute this. Yeah, like not all of them, but a lot of them saw these timelines and they were like, oh, I didn't notice it until years after. Like things like that, like changing the timeline, right? And that was the main thing that they were upset about was like he was claiming they noticed it really close to the vaccine, which of course helped his case.
And you needed
but they were like,
proof.
actually that's not true. And so a few people he talked to. According to Deer, some of these parents, I think two of them actually noticed symptoms before the vaccine, which isn't on the data, right?
Which would be
right?
unhelpful.
Yeah. And by the way, what infuriated me, guys, when I was watching his interviews, Wakefield's interviews, is he said so many times, I am here to listen to parents. I'm one of the few doctors that is hearing parents out and their concerns. And then he's lying about what they even told him on the study. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so gross. Here's a quote from BBC News story about this. Quote, Andrew Wakefield is one of the few doctors who listens to parents and who believes their children were damaged by MMR. So like that was his whole thing. I might skip this paragraph, guys, because It doesn't need to be said. Yeah, you know what? Hold on a sec, guys. Okay, is it worth saying that, do you notice here, all these inflamed colon, most of those, actually those kids didn't have inflamed colons? Like they just made that up? I mean, is that
You could say including the fact that kids didn't even have inflamed colons. Or
Okay. I won't go into it, you guys, but it also came out that a lot of these kids didn't even have inflamed colons at all. Like they didn't even have these conditions that were talked about. And so
that came out through the parents, or like how did that?
Through DEER and the investigation, the General Medical Council,
okay.
over 217 days. I'm going to finish up with one more thing, because remember, guys, the whole thing is MMR causes autism. Would it shock you to know that many of these kids didn't even have autism?
What?
That's true, too. A bunch of these kids didn't even have autism.
Who was making those diagnoses?
He made one of them. One of the kids on here is completely invented. It's a sibling of another kid, and his brother was autistic, but the sibling wasn't, but he included him anyway. And he's the one that says 24 hours later. So, like, if you're going to make it up, you may as well make it 24 hours,
Make it
right?
a good,
like,
quick one.
Yeah.
Happen right away.
So, look, we can pick it all apart, but in the end, parents, it was so much of it's just a lie. Even without all that, it's still pretty suspect to begin with in terms of data. But now we know that tons of this isn't even true. Just made it up. And now you see why Wakefield dropped his lawsuit immediately, because now DEER had access to this, and he didn't want that. It gets worse.
Okay.
And I did debate as to how much to talk about this, but the methodology that he put these kids through is brutal. Like the testing that he put these young children through is horrendous, and he did it without really being clear to the rest of the parents. So in medical practice, you need to give consent, right? It's called, it's got a name. I forget, something consent. Informed consent is a thing in medicine. If you're going to have a study done, you need to have. So in this case, you give it to the parents, but the forms he gave to the parents did not give any of the risks at all, and that's not good. Like, and I actually saw his forms compared to some real forms, and they're very different. So he wasn't even telling the parents what he was going to be doing to the kids. They were sedated multiple times, given many laxatives, blood and stool samples, colonoscopies, which for children is not safe, generally speaking, lumbar punctures, put a needle between your spine, MRI scans, sedation, or the scans, brain tests, and other procedures. These are children going through all these tests. And the reporting on this that came out after is really sad. Kids throwing up, crying, being forced down. Just what he put the kids through to get the results that he wanted. If you actually think about that,
and then it's just fudging the results anyways.
Right.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. A lot of the parents said after they didn't actually know. He actually said the procedures were painless procedures, and they're clearly not. In fact, colonoscopies, for one, are not really safe for kids. The way they're put together, the way they're growing, like it's not good. So anyway, I don't think I'm going to go any further on that, just because, I mean, there's details, and they're not good. They're pretty sad, and the parents didn't really know. Sorry. One of the lumbar punctures went horribly wrong, and they had to rush him to another hospital to treat him. So there's some things that happened along the way that were not public knowledge until all this happened.
Right.
He also gave every kid medication for bowel conditions, even though a lot of kids didn't have bowel conditions, and that was not good for them either. And he also gave medications that weren't even appropriate for children to take of that age. So he was just kind of doing whatever he wanted to get that data, to get, and at one point, it also came out that he gave one kid an experimental medicine that was not yet approved, created by...
Tell me it's Fuberbong.
There it is.
Or what's his name?
Yeah, Fudenberg. I knew he'd appear one more time in this thing. Okay. Last thing. I know this is long. One more terrible thing he did. In the study, he needed blood samples from children who weren't these children, to do comparisons. So he went to his own kid's birthday party, and he paid his friends $5 a kid for their blood. So Andrew Wakefield, good guy. By the way, that's true. He told that story at a conference. You can see it on YouTube. It's a true story. Is that enough?
Wow.
How you feeling?
Yeah, that's probably enough about Andrew Wakefield for me to formulate an opinion about him.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I have one little bit to tag on the end here if you're still with me. You guys still with me for a little bit?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Donald, it's Autism Awareness Day, and the facts came out last week that so many more people are being diagnosed with autism than before. Have you been thinking about that?
And I've gotten to be pretty familiar with the subject. And, I have a theory, and it's a theory that some people believe in, and that's the vaccinations. I mean, we never had anything like this. This is now an epidemic. It's way, way up over the last 10 years. It's way up over the last 2 years. And, when you take a little baby that weighs like 12 pounds into a doctor's office and they pump them with many, many simultaneous vaccinations, I'm all for vaccinations, but I think that when you add all of these vaccinations together, and then 2 months later, the baby is so different and lots of different things have happened, and I've known cases. I knew a case, a 2-year-old child went for the vaccination. The child was fine. A month later, the parent was up in arms, didn't know what was going on because the baby had just lost it.
Right. And you know that most physicians disagree with that in the studies.
They do.
And the studies have said that there is no link. It used to be thought that it was the mercury in those vaccines.
And we are back. So like I said earlier, Tyler and Chris, to this day, there's been no studies, and there have been some, or actually a few, but none of them have replicated or confirmed anything he has said. His condition he came up with is not a thing. It was looked into, just not a thing.
Is it still part of, do people still talk about it as if it's a thing?
I think some of the kind of conspiratorial groups do, but medical communities do not.
Okay.
It's not a thing. It never really was, really. So what did the General Medical Council conclude after all of this? They concluded basically he was a lying con man. He failed in all of his duties as someone working ethically in medicine. So he lost his license immediately, and currently, he was never a doctor again. Some of the stuff that he's out there now, they still call him doctor, but he is no longer a doctor, so don't call him that. Then in 2010, the Lancet retracted this study.
Whoa.
Yeah, 12 years later.
Wonder why they waited so long.
It's interesting. I'm sure there's a reason. I didn't really come across it or look into it, but it's a long time later.
Huh.
So,
they're like, we just want to be sure.
Yeah.
I guess.
Give it a few more years.
It's a big trial, though. So he does have a lot of dedicated fans still. A lot of people supported him through the whole thing. Mostly parents who were upset by how they felt, things that were done to them and their family, and continue to support him after this. He always says, look into my study and you'll come to your own conclusions. You guys can do that. I'll give you a study, take it home. He wants you to look into it, make your own conclusions. You can do that. He wrote a book called Callous Disregard, which was something someone said about him, actually. So we tried to use that and spin it in a way that's kind of a little misguided. He called it Callous Disregard, Autism Vaccines and the Truth Behind the Tragedy. I did not read it. Maybe I should have read it. I didn't do it. Maybe next time I will. He defends himself. He also claimed that Brian Deere was being paid by someone to do the reporting, because that's what people say, right? So I don't want to say a whole lot, guys. I told you earlier that I just want to talk about Andrew Wakefield, what happened, what the study was, how it affected things. You can look around yourself in the world right now and think about whatever you want to think about, right? He's still around. He has books, documentaries. He had a bigger documentary he was involved with called Vaxxed that came out in 2016. I did watch that one. And, if I were to sit here and talk about everything they said, it would take a long time. And that's part of the problem with some science misinformation is it's very easy to say something, but it's really hard to disprove it. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort. And you can throw a lot of things out at people and scare them, and they might be true. But the hard thing is taking the time to go back. But by then, the damage has been done in many ways, and that's what I feel happened here. He lives in a big mansion in Texas right now. Beautiful place. He's doing pretty well. Does lots of conferences still. He does podcasts. Alex Jones. I think Trump actually referenced the study at one point. Trump said vaccines and MMR. He said kind of parroted the same stuff. Not surprising. So I think that his legacy is basically being part of the foundation for all modern vaccine hesitancy. He's still a prominent voice in the field, and you could argue that this was the mainstream notoriety that really rocketed that movement into many things, COVID included. But it just stayed around, right? But what I want to talk about at the end is maybe. Oh, one more thing here. Sorry. There's a study done in 2016. Yeah, a lot of people did see what happened with him and sort of came around to it not being true. But a study in 2016 in the U.S., 77% of parents who refuse vaccinations cited a fear of autism. So it's still the majority of people
the fear is still there.
It's still that fear that's in their mind. They still connect it to the study and whatever, or just they still believe it. But it's not all bad. So we always talk about maybe some positive. What I will say is if you look at vaccination rates in the UK, they drop after the study. But after the reporting comes out, they go back up. And they go slowly up. And then eventually, after he lost his license, they're back up to pre-levels. So they fully recovered their vaccination rates in the UK afterwards. That's not the most happy news, but it's something that people actually took that reporting seriously. Everything we've said in the podcast was completely public, and it was in the mainstream media, and people came around. What's more about the UK, when the COVID vaccines came out, a lot of countries were a little more hesitant to start at first. It's a new vaccine, it was developed quickly. But most countries' rates slowly climbed as people could see it was safe. But the UK started high and stayed high. So they didn't start low like most countries did. So again, I think in a way they kind of learned their lesson, you can almost say, based on that data anyway. So that's something anyway that I took as a bit of a positive, that good reporting and good research and good data did maybe kind of help out in the end in the UK. The US, I'm not sure. I guess the jury's out at this point. So that's what I had planned, you guys. And again, I just want to keep it to Andrew Wakefield. Take a moment, but do you have any thoughts, Tyler, about that? Things that popped into your head, things you want to say?
Yeah, throughout the episode, I was thinking about I guess science skepticism, I guess, is kind of the theme that I was thinking about. And I was wondering how this story kind of was addressing that issue. And throughout the story of Andrew Wakefield, I was starting to think, okay, this is an argument for why we should be skeptical of science, which was kind of against. It was an unexpected. I wasn't expecting to feel that way, and then also to be kind of skeptical or distrusting of the media, which I guess I was. That one wasn't as surprising, but I was starting to have those feelings. But near the end here, I think I've come around to think maybe you shouldn't be skeptical of science, because throughout this story, the scientific body was actually, and some members of the media were kind of the hero. But like a scientist who goes rogue is maybe where we need to be skeptical. Like if there's this one doctor disagrees with everybody else and has this study that we need to listen to, maybe we should, like in this story, use it as a cautionary tale, look into the investments and patents and things, that other motivations for this doctor that's gone rogue. But so that's kind of like the story of how I've been feeling throughout this, because I was kind of surprised how I was feeling throughout. But now it's kind of come around to make more sense. That I'm.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with skepticism, right? Like that is good.
And I think I am a fairly skeptical person.
Yeah.
But
critical thinking. We've talked about that in the podcast.
But I've also been fairly trusting of the scientific community.
Yeah. Like as a whole.
As a whole.
Yeah.
But when one steps outside of that, I think you have to be, I guess my takeaway would be, that's where you're skeptical, is what's this one person's motivation for.
And you can hear it out. Like there's nothing wrong with like reading the study and like talking to him, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I just think you can be so skeptical that you don't really allow yourself to latch on to what maybe is true. Like you just remain skeptical no matter what you find out, maybe.
Right.
If that makes sense. So yeah, you're right. Like that's why I like the story so much, because there's so much going on here. Like there's just so many things happening all at once. And like, you shouldn't just believe what people say. Even the main scientific body, like, we've been wrong about stuff. And sometimes studies like this are the launching point for things shifting. But that has happened, and so you can't like disregard people who go like rogue. But it also, in this case, doesn't take that long to have issues with this one rogue guy. I don't know, like.
Yeah.
So skepticism, health and skepticism, I think I agree is really good with anything that you're told.
Yeah.
But then, do we have the skills as a society? If the media is not doing it properly, do we have the skills to look at data and to understand what cherry picking is, or a small sample size, or whatever it is? Like, I don't know.
Well, this maybe is also proof that you can use data to tell a falsified story. And yeah, you're using the word science, and I know why. Truth can handle skepticism. If it's true, you can test it and ask questions about it, and it will hold up. Yeah. So it's okay to bring things into the light and to question stuff, even if he actually had, and that's where I was hoping he was starting from, evidence that suggested, hey, maybe the story we're hearing, maybe there's more to it. And then if he found something that legitimately held up, that's when we need to go, okay, this is what the truth is telling us. We have to change some of our practices. But that's not what this was. I get that.
Not this time.
But science, just like anything, can also be the powerful broker of holding money and control. Mm-hmm. Like, that might be big oil or pharmaceutical companies or whatever. Yeah. And if people aren't allowed to ask questions about that, to me, that's where the problems are. Yeah. But if it's true, it'll hold up. So we don't have to be worried about that.
Yeah, I hear you. That's exactly right.
Even though a lot of people who are skeptical aren't using truth, I get that that's the problem.
But I almost don't blame...
But we don't have to be afraid. Like, it'll defend itself.
Yes.
Like, it'll hold up.
I think the hard part for us right now, and this is not just science, but anything, is like, it's hard to agree on what is true, I think.
It is, yeah.
As a baseline.
Harder, it feels
harder, yeah. I mean, maybe everyone says it when they get older. It's we're more divided than ever. But, so, yeah, it's hard to point to like a one mistake in all of this, because I think the Lancet had every right to publish this study, right?
Yeah.
But as they found things out, they could have.
I know. But remember, they did put an article in the same the same edition that was like, hey, this is a little bit,
But they're trying to be harmonious, or they're trying to be
cover their butts,
balanced, or they're trying to be unbiased, right? Like it's and that's where I think it gets tricky too, is trying to hear different perspectives on an issue. But and I guess this story also, it was fresh for me. Like, I hadn't really heard about this.
Yeah.
So as you went through the story, kind of chronologically, there were parts at the beginning where we were, I think, like Chris and I were a little more like, oh, maybe he's...
we're trying to defend his character.
Yeah, like maybe he is well-intentioned here, and he hasn't seen truth yet, or he's just acting in good faith.
He's asking questions, yeah.
So, but in real time, that's really hard to do. Like, it's hearing it over the course of an hour and a half or whatever. Like, halfway through the story, we're starting to see the truth. Okay, like there's some other motives here. But when you're watching the news or consuming media, it's hard to do that in real time. We want.
Well, and it's not like we figured out he was a crook. It was this one out of a million people who did, right?
There was people out, yeah. That's so true. I can sit here I know maybe when I'm reading this, like, I find it interesting. I know that I was thinking, like, am I coming across as like smug? Like, I'm sort of like smugly like, well, did you know that he, and I'm sorry if it came across like that. I just think it's such
that sense.
No, but it's such a fantastical story in some ways that you can't help but kind of laugh when you hear these things. Like, he's kind of an evil guy, really. Like, what he was trying to do was pretty underhanded, and the fact. But I'll end with this. But like, it makes me think a lot about the damage that can be done really quickly.
Yeah.
That it takes a long time to heal that, because especially when you tell something to people that they want to hear.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
And he didn't care who he hurt along the way. His patients, the parents of his patients.
Literally hurt children.
The scientists who were names were signed on to this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm a little spent. That was fun. So
thanks for doing all that reading and research and video watching. And
there's a few places that I got it from, and so I'll put them on the Substack. The book, The Man Who Fooled the World, was written by Deere, and it's kind of it's really good. It's got everything in there, and it's cited really well. Again, like we're talking about, like, are there citations? And it's very well researched. And part of the reason why it's so trustworthy is it was used in this hearing. So I mean, every step of the way it was cited, and these parents came in, and like it was all very much recorded for us to be able to learn from now. So, but yeah. And then there's a couple YouTube things, like old documentaries that came out. I tried to watch just as much of the stuff that came out initially as I could, just to see what it felt like to watch the BBC News. And like I said, being kind of horrified how they portrayed autistic kids. That was one of the worst parts to watch. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Do you want to confess?
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're going to listener Mike's house for some games soon, and he's probably waiting for us, so you should go quick.
Okay, I have a real quick one.
This segment is brought to you by Birdie Coffee. The team at Birdie Coffee is passionate about high-quality, locally made craft beverages. Enjoy a decadent latte, freshly roasted espresso, or something iced and delicious. Located in Red Deer, Alberta, Birdie Coffee Co. is a stop well worth making. But don't worry, if you aren't in the area, you can get their fresh roasted coffee beans delivered right to your door. Head to birdiecoffeeco.ca to learn more, or check them out at the Gasoline Alley Farmers Market, Thursday to Sunday.
Well, as viewers can see, we're still at Cilantro enjoying our podcast time together. We've had a wonderful meal. Graham really filled us in on Andrew Wakefield. I just Googled him and saw his picture.
And I was trying to ask Chris who should play him in the movie.
I don't know, but who do you think? Maybe a Skarsgård?
Skarsgård, yes, exactly. The younger one, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So now we need to confess some things. And maybe your confession, dear listener, is that you made a lot of Andrew Wakefield-inspired decisions in your life. But my confession is that I love the pan flute. And I spent some time today at the market. Did you hear the guy playing the pan flute, Tyler?
No, I didn't see him.
It's like those little pipes, that are all attached. I could have just sat there and had a coffee and listened to it for an hour.
And the pads playing and stuff? Yeah.
And Shanna's like, you really like this stuff, don't you? And yeah, I do. That's my confession.
I think
I have a weird love for it.
I've legit wondered.
It comes on and I'm in.
Like Vancouver Granville Island Market.
Oh yeah, I've heard them there.
I've wondered who is this for? But
me.
I think we found you.
Like, if I know when that guy's playing, I am booking a ticket.
You're there.
Pan flute, super underrated. And I'm
going to put some pan flute on the outro here on the way.
Please do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That's a good one, Chris. Ty, do you have one?
Yeah. It's kind of related to my recommendation, actually, because it's school teaching related. I've been supporting a student lately through English 30-1, which is a difficult course.
Mm-hmm.
I've never taught it.
But you did take it.
I did take it and pass it. And I consider myself a strong writer and good with my words. And I helped this student write some thesis statements.
Okay.
And we submitted those, or the student submitted those assignments for some feedback from her teacher. And those, I was eagerly looking up how she did on, she wanted to check her marks. And I was very curious too, because I was pretty involved in the writing of these statements. And I learned that I'm about as satisfactory according to this teacher.
That's good.
Yeah, before I said that, I was gonna ask you guys the common criticism of English teachers. Have you heard? What would you say? Like students say about why English?
Like they're too hard. They mark too hard.
Mark too hard, or it's like subjective, right? Like it's different for your teacher.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of.
And that's for sure your argument now.
That's my argument now, for sure. Yeah. Oh, it's all subjective.
Would you be willing to be so vulnerable as to put a thesis statement on the Substack?
Please share one.
Oh, one of the ones I thought was at least a proficient.
Yeah.
And then was returned as a satisfactory.
Oh,
you can submit it.
I was aiming for proficient.
You have other high school friends. You could submit it and just be like, hey, what would you give this?
Yeah.
If you want a second opinion.
I could even write one for this episode. I'll write one up.
Oh, that's funny.
Those are good confessions. Mine's really fast. For Heidi's birthday, I want to get some ice wine as like a special treat. And so I got there, and it was way more expensive than I thought.
Oh, it's so expensive.
So
ice
I had an extra big pocket inside my Carhartt coat, like it's a deep pocket, and I stole 2 bottles of ice wine.
What?
For a total cost of $200. So if you want to get in touch with the show, what should you do?
I don't know if this is real or not.
It's not real.
That's so good. And by the way, this ice wine is delicious.
Games night tonight.
Yeah.
Can you steal a couple more on the way?
Yeah, I'm getting pretty, I'm out in the open about it now. Like, I feel like they just don't, they don't want to stop
They're
you.
not going to check your pockets.
I think, loss prevention people they're not going to chase you down, right?
Not you.
No.
Clean cut.
No. And now I have a taste for it, so we'll see. So if you want to contact the show for any reason.
Please do. HarmoniousGentlemen@gmail.com.
Yeah, no law enforcement.
No.
And as a final reminder to people, if you want a hat or a pin, let us know. We want to give it to people who listen and are people that the heroes to us. So please let us know.
How many of these pins could you fit in your pockets?
I'll find out after. There's other things in them right now.
Some glasses and
be making too many clinking sounds.
Yeah. Just before we actually finish, I really just wanted to make up a story about me stealing something but leave it. You did this once too, right?
I'm sorry. Let's redo that. I won't say that.
Oh no! I want people to know I did not do this.
Oh.
I just wanted to see how long it would go. Like, did you guys believe me or not?
I knew you were not telling the truth.
I was incredulous.
Okay. I don't really have a real confession.
I wondered if maybe there was more to the story. Like you stole them, then
stole it for a homeless person, or
the last time I stole something was a Cadbury cream egg from Kmart in Terrace, BC.
And we've heard that story.
Yeah, that was it. So I learned my lesson. Okay, guys, that was fun. We have a harmonious trip coming up that really excites me to Edmonton. So stay tuned, people, for some, I think, really exciting episodes.
Yeah, there'll be some cool stuff.
And I promise no more science researching for me for a while.
Thanks. That was good, Graham.
No more scripts.
Except we're going to try to get Andrew Wakefield on.
Yeah.
Honestly.
On the next
Harmonious
Gentlemen
podcast.